Baghdadi, once the crown jewel of the Abbasid Caliphate and one of the world's great cities, has had quite the turbulent history. From its construction to the present day, it's seen everything from golden ages to Mongol sackings, colonial occupations, and brutal dictatorships. But today we want to focus on the darker side of Baghdadi's past with the top 5 darkest moments in the city's history. Be sure to vote for your favorite moment in the poll down below. And with that said, let's begin. Number 5. The construction of the city walls. Before we get into sackings, pestilences, and invasions, we thought we'd start off our list on a relatively lighter note by looking at the construction of Baghdad itself. You see, while the location where Baghdad now stands was settled long before the city's construction, the actual building of the city walls and the city's founding as a major metropolis can be attributed to the Abbasid Caliph Al-Mansur. Now, Al-Mansur had chosen the location for his new capital wisely, as it sat at the crossroads between the 3 great regions of his empire, Mesopotamia, Persia, and the Levant. It was also right on the banks of the Tigris River and close to the capital of the previous dynasty in Damascus. So, construction began around 762 CE with Al-Mansur commissioning the building of a massive circular wall around the city. This wall would ensure the safety of the city and allow the city to grow unimpeded without needing to expand the wall later. Seeing as this was the 8th century though, and technology was not as advanced as it is today, building a circle was easier said than done. In order to get around this problem, Al-Mansur brought in an engineer named Al-Biruni, who came up with the idea of building a wall with a slight indentation every 240 paces or so. This allowed the builders to continue constructing the wall without any setbacks, and they were able to build a total of 35 watchtowers and 6 gates into the city. Overall, the project took about 4 years to complete, and when it was finished, the impressive feat of engineering was 8 miles in circumference. And thus the great city of Baghdad was born, for the Black Death strikes. Having a well-built city is all well and good, but if your citizens are dying left and right, then it's not much use. Sadly, the people of Baghdad would learn this lesson the hard way during the 14th century when the Black Death swept through the Middle East and killed millions of people. What made the outbreak in Baghdad even worse, though, was that the caliph at the time, Al-Mutawakkil, refused to believe that the plague was real, claiming it was simply divine punishment for the sins of the people. He went ahead and shut the gates of the city to keep it quarantined. But the problem was that there was already a sizable group of infected people inside the city. And because Al-Mutawakkil didn't want to believe the disease was even real, he didn't take any measures to stop the spread of the disease. Instead, he tried to pass the blame onto other groups like the Jews and ordered them to be put to death. Unfortunately, this didn't work and the Black Death continued to spread throughout Baghdad. Things eventually got so bad that the caliph fled the city and left it in the hands of his vizier. He appointed as caliph after him, but it's unknown whether he ever came back as the city was sacked shortly after he left. Either way, though, the Black Death killed hundreds of thousands of people in Baghdad and left the city in sharp decline. 3. The Mongols arrive. For most of their existence, Baghdad had been fairly safe from outside invaders. The massive city walls kept most armies out, and the ones that did attack never succeeded. That all changed, however, in the mid-13th century when the Mongols arrived at the city. Up until this point, the Mongols had primarily attacked and taken over land to the north and east of Baghdad. But as their empire grew, so did their desire for more land and power. As such, the Mongol Empire turned towards the Abbasid Caliphate and began to march on Baghdad. The first attempt was led by the grandson of Genghis Khan, Beta Khan, who was held off by the city walls. After hearing of his failure, the Mongol leader decided that he needed more men, and so he called for reinforcements. When they arrived, though, it seemed that Baghdad's defenses were too great to overcome, and the Mongol leader again ordered a retreat. Finally, a third and final Mongol army was assembled, and this time they were led by Hulagu Khan, who wasted no time in attacking the city. Because the Mongol forces were so large, the defenders of Baghdad were quickly overwhelmed and the Mongols were able to break through the city walls. With Baghdad open to attack, the Mongols began to plunder the city and kill anyone who got in their way. While it's disputed how many people died during the sack, most estimates say that it was between 800,000 and 1 million people. And that was nearly the entire population of Baghdad at the time. With the Mongols having free reign of the city, though, nothing was safe and the great library of Baghdad was burned to the ground. The Mongols would go on to conquer more land in the region and establish their own capital in the former seat of the Abbasid Caliphate. The Siege of Baghdad. Just over 100 years after the Mongols sacked the city, Baghdad found itself under siege yet again. This time it was the Ottoman Empire laying siege to the city, and it was unlooking good for the defenders. While the Ottomans weren't as powerful as the Mongols, they still posed a serious threat to Baghdad, and the people knew it. The siege lasted for 2 years and caused widespread famine throughout the city. By the end of it, only 25,000 people remained alive in Baghdad, and they were forced to eat their animals, dogs and cats, and even resorted to digging up dead bodies and eating them. Eventually, the Ottoman Sultan, Selim the Drunkard, ordered the execution of the remaining inhabitants, and he claimed Baghdad for the Ottoman Empire. Number 1. Saddam Hussein's regime. While the previous moments on this list are certainly dark, none of them compare to the regime of terror that was imposed upon Baghdad by Saddam Hussein. Following the Iran-Iraq War, Saddam decided to turn on his own people in order to stay in power and keep his country stable. He created a secret police force that would go on to become known as the Mukhabarat, who carried out killings, torture, and imprisonment of anyone who opposed Saddam or his regime. To make matters worse, in 1991, Saddam ordered the invasion of Kuwait, which resulted in the First Gulf War and further sanctions being placed on Iraq. These sanctions would devastate the nation, and especially the capital of Baghdad, where over 2,000 people would die each month due to a lack of medicine and other supplies. Then in 2003, the United States and its allies invaded Iraq and took control of the country. While Saddam was eventually caught and executed in 2006, his regime had already caused irreparable damage to the country and especially the psyche of the people of Baghdad. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to subscribe and check out some of our other content.